Hey, this is Craig Ballantyne. Today, you're going to learn how to write and market a best-selling book. I'm going to walk you through what we did with The Dark Side of Discipline, my latest best-selling book, to get over 100 reviews and sell over 5,000 copies in the first couple of months, all right? Because those are game-changing things. 5,000 copies of a book is a lot, and I'm going to teach you everything that I have learned this time, my fourth best-selling book, so that you're able to take your passion and purpose and turn it into a profitable business. This is talking about writing nonfiction business books to attract customers and clients who buy your products and services. And when you do this and you do it right, oh, you are going to have a winner on your side. All right. So I've written the Perfect Day Formula, the Perfect Week Formula, Unstoppable, which is my Wall Street Journal best-selling book, and then the latest book, which is The Dark Side of Discipline. And we are all about helping people achieve results faster. That's why we have the t-shirt that says Success Loves Speed. All right. So inside of this book training here on YouTube, you are going to get my big idea formula. You're going to get the 7 most common mistakes that really hinder authors. We're going to give you 2 game changer Amazon hacks, and we're going to show you the simple way to hit the bestseller list, because it allows you to be a best-selling author. And then we're going to talk about how you can work with me on your book idea. But I'm also going to talk a lot about why you probably shouldn't write a book in the first place. You're going to want to hear that as we go through it. And that's where we'll start with the 7 common mistakes. Chances are, beginner author, you are turning blog posts into a book, and they just don't flow. I've read a lot of books where it was clear they were just a bunch of blog posts, and you know what? They should have stayed blog posts, and that's it, and not become a book, because it really actually leads to a poor reputation. Another thing I see people doing is that they want to write a book, but in order to write the book, you must first have lived the book. And most people write a 10-chapter book, but have only lived the first 6 chapters. What I mean by that is that in most books, it starts off with somebody stuck in a bad situation. You know, things get worse. They discover a system and they work on the system, and eventually they achieve a climactic result and they're a new person. That's the way it should be. But most people who write books are still stuck in the doing of the thing and the transformation. So you're not ready to write the book because you haven't had an ending in your own life and a climactic occurrence where you've hit another level. So don't write the book until you're ready to write the book. Because if you do that, you probably also don't have an audience in which to sell the book to, and it'll be crickets, or the sound of a tree falling in the forest. You'll have launched your book and no one will buy it and you'll be demoralized. So don't do that. You also shouldn't write a book if you're expecting to make money with just the book. You have to have a master plan. And you shouldn't write the book if you have no big idea, no book outline, no marketing plan, no audience, and if you're not willing to go all in on Amazon and audio, which I'll show you exactly what it means like to do that and how to do it. So some scary Amazon stats to start. 60% of people never open the book. So out of 100 people that buy books, 60 don't even open it. And I'm guilty as charged. I buy a lot of books. I buy about 3 books a week, even though I slap my hand every time and I say, don't order another book. I'm like, this one looks really good and I will read it, I swear. And I don't end up reading it because I have too many books on my list. So 60 out of 100 don't read the book. So it's nice that you got, your dollar royalty from Amazon, but you get nothing else from it because they don't read the book because you haven't done a good enough marketing job on it, which we'll talk about in a second. And then of those 40 people that at least open the book, 36 of them, 90%, don't make it past chapter 1 because chapter 1 is often really boring. And that's why we teach front loading the book. Put all your best information in the first chapter so that they want to share it and so that they actually want to read more. So now you're left with like only 4 out of 100 that gets past chapter 1. And I don't even know how many of those actually read the book. So if you've saved your call to action or you've saved your best information for the end of the book, 90% plus of people won't even get it. So you have to reconfigure how you're going to write your book. But first, how to win at Amazon. There's 2 hacks. Number 1, you got to nail your title. It's got to be an eye-catching title, very catchy. You want a keyword-rich title and a functional subtitle. So Dark Side of Discipline, that's eye-catching. Dark Side of Discipline, contrarian, I don't understand. What could that possibly be? And it has a keyword, discipline. So we had that. And then the subtitle is very functional. It's very punchy. And ours was Stop Chasing, Suffer Less, Achieve More. Just like Tim Ferriss has Escape the 9 to 5, Join the New Rich, Live Anywhere. 3 benefit-rich bullets in the subtitle. The next thing you need to do is make sure that the book cover stands out, because a lot of people are buying books off these little images that they see on Instagram or on Amazon, and it needs to be eye-catching. So if you look at the bottom there, Perfect Day Formula, my first book, horrible cover. Perfect Week Formula, worst cover ever. Man Up by my friend Bedros Keuilian, nice cover. Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell, bright blue cover. And then The Dark Side of Discipline, very catchy book cover. So you got the eye-catching title, the professional book cover. We used 99 Designs we used Carrie Oberbrunner, my book mentor, came up with the idea, and then we ran a contest at 99 Designs and somebody created the book cover. And we used that punchy subtitle. So that's how you're going to win at the Amazon game. In addition to making sure that your Amazon listing is amazing and that you have the book in all formats. But how do you know what the right title is? Well, honestly, you should have a lot of title ideas if you're an expert who deserves to write the book. If you're a person who's only lived 6 chapters of the 10 chapters that a book needs to be, meaning you haven't fully lived the book that you need to write, you won't have a good title idea because you don't know the content well enough. So go back to building your audience. Don't write the book until you're ready. But if you are ready, you'll have lots of great ideas. And then you need to do a bit of research of other books on Amazon, and you need to go through the big idea formula. So the research is read the 3-star Amazon reviews and the 2-star Amazon reviews. The 1-star Amazon reviews are almost always about how the book was damaged in transit and as if that's like the book author's fault. And so those are garbage. And then the 5-star reviews are often very sycophantic. It's like the friend of somebody, and it's like, oh man, this person's my friend and the book is great. So you kind of got to ignore most of the 5-star reviews. Look at the criticisms of it. You should also interview your clients and your prospects about what they need to know, about what they feel they're not getting, about why they didn't like certain books, about why they love certain books. And then obviously be an expert. Make sure you've lived the 10 chapters of your book and not just 6 chapters where you still have a lot of learning to do. With the big idea formula, I've talked about this in many of my courses, you need to be contrarian. So if the crowd is going in one way and you truly believe the opposite, that's your biggest chance to stand out. But if you believe what everybody else believes, you don't need to read the book because there's already been a book written about it. So you won't stand out and you won't sell copies. The dark side of discipline, everybody thinks they need more discipline these days. And we said there's a dark side to it. That caught a lot of people's attention and allowed us to promote the book quite easily. You want to be contrarian, you want to have a short title, you want to be specific. So if you can use numbers, that's even better. Although dark side of discipline is much better than the trouble with discipline. Dark side, much more specific. And then a particular articulation, something that's catchy, right? That we've talked about before. So the epitome of the big idea is the 4-hour work week by Tim Ferriss. Take a look at that. Contrarian. Everybody thinks you need a 40-hour work week. Tim says 4. It's short. 4-hour work week. It's specific. 4 hours, not short. 4 hours, not slightly less work week. 4-hour work week. And he has that particular articulation, which was easy to share. And then he has that very catchy and blunt subtitle, which is Escape the 9-to-5, Live Anywhere, Join the New Rich. Man, what a book cover. No wonder it was a New York Times bestseller from the first-time author. Man, did he ever do an incredible job. Now, here's another guy who does incredible jobs with books. That's Carrie Oberbrunner, the bald gentleman there with Dr. Peter Diamandis, who's a very famous guy. And Carrie was my book mentor and really helped me put together the title, the cover, the content, the opening story of The Dark Side of Discipline. His team helped me perfect my Amazon listing. They helped me with the editing and they helped me get the audiobook up and they did everything. And I highly recommend that if you are serious about your book, you hire Carrie. Tell him I sent you. He is awesome. His company is Igniting Souls, and he does amazing work. He works with Dan Sullivan, John C. Maxwell, Ben Hardy, big, big names. So what I do when I'm writing my books, to make it easy, to break it down, because writing a book is a big monster. But if you break it down into 3 parts, okay, now it's 3 smaller monsters. I make sure that there's a strong intro, a strong first chapter, and I do follow the hero's journey that, okay, here's the main character or the reader. They're struggling with something. Oh, man, here's things that make it worse. Here are the transformative things that the mentor teaches them. Now they come up out of it, they hit a climactic event, and now they're a new person, a transformed person. That's what we're looking for in the hero's journey. That is every fiction book, but now it's also in our nonfiction work. So we used early wins. We didn't use a foreword, we didn't use a long acknowledgement, we didn't thank 140 people before we got into it. We just went straight to the meat of the book. We did a very catchy story with the story of Chuck to start the book. And my goodness, so many people got hooked on that. Plus, we gave away our biggest ideas in the first chapter so that people would be able to repeat and share our biggest lessons. They didn't have to wait until 60% through the book, which 90% of people don't get to. And we had links back early in the book and QR codes driving people and selling them on the free bonuses and goodies that they would get if they joined our community. So there was a business benefit. And that's the ultimate goal. If you're just writing a book to write a book and you're happy with that, that's fine. But if you're writing a book to build your business, but there's no plan and structure to get people from reading the book to being on your email list to joining your coaching or product or service, then you shouldn't write the book. There's a million and other things that you could do that are better uses of your time. So make sure that you have that in place. Again, Dark Side of Discipline, very concise, 25,000 words. It was 100 pages. It was still big enough to be a book, but it was small. It got our message through. We started strong with the Chuck story, massive value in chapter 1, and we had CTAs throughout, very strong CTAs, benefit-rich CTAs. You're going to get these amazing bonuses when you go scan this QR code and get access to it. And we had a lot of people join our school community from reading The Dark Side of Discipline. Now we have the 3-part book. Let's break it down so it's even easier for you to create. Well, let's do 10 chapters. So the intro chapter, then the 3 parts with the core concepts, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Great. And then chapter 10 is going to be the wrap up. Okay, it's getting easier. I can write 10 chapters, right? Even easier way to do this is then break each of the 10 chapters down into 5 subtopics and 3 guiding questions for each of the subtopics. So now if you have 10 chapters, 5 subtopics per chapter, and 3 questions, that means there's 15 questions per chapter, 150 questions. And if you write 150 to 200 words, you have a 30,000 word book. Done. And if you edit it down, you get rid of a bunch of stuff that doesn't need to be there. You kill some darlings, as we'll talk about in a moment. Through your editing process, you're down to about 25,000 words and 100 pages, and it's a tight piece of material. The cool thing is that you can even do this with audio, as I'll share in a second. But if you're feeling overwhelmed by this right now, there's a way to work with me on your next book. We'll do a 90-minute call outlining everything that we talked about so that you leave with the 10 chapters, the title, the contrarian big idea, how to get those 150 questions created, how to create this fast. I'll review your writing, and I'll give you a bonus call with Carey. He usually charges $2,500 for an hour, and I'll give you a bonus call with him for free if you work with me on your book. All right, so email me at craig@craigballantyne.com if you want to do that, or drop book down below in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube. So now if we add those 150 questions, you can go and use an AI like Plaud.ai, Plaud, or Otter.ai, and you just speak your answers to those 150 questions. Then that book gets transcribed. Then you can run it through an AI and turn it from speaking to writing, and your book could be done. You can come up with your title right now. You come up with your book cover idea. That'll take a little bit of time, and you'll have to use 99 designs in most cases or use a professional designer. But you can come up with your 10 chapter titles right now in the next 30 minutes. You could then come up with your 150 questions in about a 90-minute session. And then you could answer those in about 4 hours audio-wise. So you could literally have this book done in an 8-hour workday if you did it all back to back. Crazy. And then some editing using ChatGPT or getting your customers and clients to read the book, try and get 25 people to raise their hand and do it voluntarily. Tighten your writing. Cut the words and sentences that don't need to be there. Kill your darlings, which means this is a term from Stephen King, and he wrote a great book on writing called On Writing, and it will really help you understand the concept of there's a lot of stuff that you write that sounds good to you that is not beneficial for the reader. They won't understand it. It doesn't serve the purpose, and it might sound cool to you. And I had to cut a lot of stuff from The Dark Side of Discipline that sounded really great. I have probably like 20 emails in my inbox in my draft section of stuff that I cut. And I thought, just in case, I'm not going to delete it, just in case I might use it later. And they're now saved as my email drafts. And I haven't used them for anything. And the book was made better by taking them out. So tighten your writing, kill your darlings, and read that book out loud. Because when you do the audiobook, and you must do the audiobook, you don't want to have any sentences in the written book that are really hard for you to say in the audiobook. Because when you do an audiobook, you have to go into a studio. You can't do it with just a mic at home. Amazon will reject it. So you have to go to a professional studio that specializes in audiobooks, and you record it there. It probably costs about $1,000, and that must be uploaded. But if you don't read your book out loud, you will go into the studio, and it's very difficult to read an audiobook because you have to get every sentence perfect according to the text on the book that you've submitted. And if you have a lot of tongue twisters in there that are easy to read in your head, but hard to read when you're talking them out loud, it'll be a very frustrating day. So read your book out loud. It's a really great way to edit things. You can also use Grammarly or Pro Writing Aid. You can use the Hemingway editor and the Hemingway app. You can use Claude.ai for long document editing. You can use ChatGPT. It'll help you out too. Or you can just ask 5, 10, 15, 20 friends or clients to read it and mark anything confusing, unbelievable, or boring. Those are great ways to edit your book without spending money. So ChatGPT, it acts as a language tool for proofreading, suggests other ways. You can even have it write in other styles. You can say, hey, take my chapter and write it in Hemingway style, as if you were Ernest Hemingway. You've read all his books, you know his writing style. Take my first chapter and write it like Ernest Hemingway. And then you can list ChatGPT as your co-author if you want, but that's how you can do it with your content. You can have it rewritten in another person's style to give you ideas. Then once the book is done, and again, it could be done in a day of work if you were hardcore, make sure you go to Amazon and follow the Kindle Direct Publishing Guide. Go to Amazon and watch the latest videos on how to optimize your Amazon listing. Because if you get this wrong, it'll be very hard for you to promote your book properly. Amazon just won't show it. So use YouTube to find those best practices for the metadata that you have to put on your Amazon listing. And then one of the most important things you need to do is launch your book, preferably to your email list. Again, if you don't have an audience, if you don't have an email list and a huge social media, you're not going to be able to promote your book, so no one's going to see it. And Amazon rewards books that get a lot of reviews fast. And so if you can't sell your book, and therefore you can't get any reviews, Amazon's not going to push your book out. It's going to linger in obscurity, and you're going to have wasted a year or a year and a half, which is what takes me to write most of my books, for nothing. No one will read your book, and that is so painful and demoralizing. That's why if you want to do this seriously, you need to work with Carrie or work with me and Carrie and get this done right. The next thing you do is, well, back to the launching via email. There's no better way to sell your book. Social media is not as good as email, because if you have an email list of thousands of people and you send an email to them, there's a link in the email directly taking them to Amazon. But if you do it on social media, you have to tell, like, hey, check the link in my bio or send me a message. I'll send you the link. It's so inefficient. If you do podcasts about it, people might be listening to the podcast, but they're driving down the road. And even if they're driving a Tesla, they can't take their hands off the wheel and just start going to Amazon and buying your book. So launching via email is the absolute best way of doing it. You can do manual labor by launching it via social media. And this is one of the posts that I put in my stories. If you see the slide on YouTube, it says 4,000 people saw it. Of that, 10% of people messaged me for the book. 400 people got the link. I don't know how many of those people bought, but that was just from one day of social media. I got way more people buying it during our week-long email promotion, and it was way less manual labor than sending a link to everybody. But I sent thousands of direct messages to people on social media in the last couple months, and that resulted in over 5,000 copies of my book being sold in the first 60 days. When you sell a bunch really fast and you've put yourself in the right categories, you're going to get a number one status. So there's categories that don't have a lot of competition. If you make sure that you're in those, and usually it takes an expert like Carrie and his team to figure this out, but if you're in the right category with the right number of sales, you'll be number one. You'll take a screenshot and you'll be able to prove that you're a bestseller. Dark Side of Discipline shouldn't be in marketing for small businesses, but that's where Carrie put it in as one of the places that we knew we'd get a bestseller. We were also number one in coaching and number one in time management, which are more appropriate. And I just didn't have those screenshots with me when I made this presentation. But we hit number one in about 5 different categories. Some of them didn't make sense, but most of them did. But now we have proof that this is an Amazon bestseller. I want to show you the numbers of, so we launched it in the middle of April. So 1 month later, we had sold 2,440 copies, and 555 of them were audiobooks and 1,500 were Kindle books. The thing is, we were selling it at 99 cents on Kindle. So if it was $9.99 on Kindle, most of those Kindle sales probably would have been audiobooks. Because what I found over the years is that it's at least 1-to-1, but usually 2-to-1. 2 audiobooks sold for every 1 Kindle or physical book. More people buy audiobooks because you could listen to an audiobook while you're making love to your wife, while you're driving your car, while you're working in the kitchen. I don't recommend it while you're making love to your wife, but you could, or while you're working out, etc. You can do anything hands-free and listen to the audiobook. But you can't read a book while you're cooking dinner, right? And so that's why more people are buying audiobooks. Another thing is that what I've found through personal experience is that people who buy the audiobook go through the book more often than people who buy a physical or a Kindle book. They listen to the book multiple times, but they will only read it once. And the more times that somebody listens to it, especially your voice, they're going to get connected with you. And if you do a coaching program, this is going to be a game changer for you. So I'm showing a picture of my mastermind group, and there's a guy over my right shoulder named Bob Ferguson. He listened to the Perfect Week Formula 4 times, came to one of our mastermind events, has been in our mastermind program for 3 years, and has spent over $120,000 with us because he listened to the book 4 times. If it was just reading it, I don't know if he'd be a coaching client at all. So audiobooks are where the money is. So what you've learned today is that you got to use my big idea formula. You got to use those 2 Amazon game changers. There's a simple way to hit the bestseller list. You need to do an email launch, because if you don't have an email list, man, it's going to be hard to sell books. And when you pull all that together and you write the book fast using my 10 chapters, 15 questions method, and you even do it audio-wise, you can get this book done in about 8 hours of work if you're an expert who deserves to write the book. So if that's you and you still feel like this is overwhelming and you want to do this right, if you're serious and you want to turn this into a money machine, which is out there promoting your products and services 24/7 on Amazon, and you want to work with me on this, then send me an email at craig@craigballantyne.com or comment book down below. And let's chat and see if you're ready to write the book. And if you are, we'll make sure that it's worth your time. This is Craig Ballantyne from Early Rise Radio. Looking forward to chatting with you again soon. I love talking about books. Books mean so much to me. And that's why I've written 4 and I've got 2 more knocking on the door, and you'll hear about them very soon.